The child appeared at dawn like a ghost rising from the canyon mist. Her dress torn and bloodied, her feet wrapped in strips of cloth. Her mother's Bible clutched against her chest so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Iron Sky had been preparing his horse when he saw her stumbling toward the Apache camp. And something in the way she moved, desperate yet determined, made him drop the reins and walk toward her. She couldn't have been more than 9 years old. Her hair, once probably braided neatly, now hung in tangled waves around a face streaked with dust and tears. Her eyes were the color of river stones, gray and hard from seeing too much too soon. She stopped 10 feet from him, swaying slightly, her legs threatening to give out. "Are you Iron Sky?" she asked, her voice hoarse and cracking. He nodded slowly, studying her. No white child had ever walked into his camp alone, not in all his years as war chief of the Mescalero Apache. The very fact that she stood here meant something had gone terribly wrong. "My mother," she whispered, and her voice broke completely. "My mother said to find you if something happened. She said to give you this." She held out the Bible with trembling hands. It was old, leather-bound, the edges worn soft from years of use. Iron Sky took it carefully, feeling the weight of it, the warmth of it from being pressed against her body. The girl swayed again, and this time her legs did give out. He caught her before she hit the ground, lifting her easily despite his 50 years. She weighed almost nothing, all bones and desperation. Her eyes fluttered closed. "Bring water," Iron Sky called out in Apache to the women who had gathered to watch. "And food." Quickly, he carried the child to his own dwelling, laying her on blankets near the fire. His wife, Mourning Dove, hurried over with a water skin and began cleaning the dirt from the girl's face. The child's feet were a mess of blisters and cuts, wrapped in what looked like pieces of her own dress. "How far has she walked?" Mourning Dove asked softly. "Far enough to nearly kill her," Iron Sky replied. He looked down at the Bible in his hands, then opened it carefully. Inside, tucked between the pages of Genesis, was a folded piece of paper. His hands stilled. He pulled it out slowly, his heart beginning to pound in a way it hadn't in years. The handwriting on the outside was elegant, flowing, unmistakably hers, Margaret. He hadn't heard that name spoken aloud in 15 years. Hadn't let himself think it. But seeing it written in her own hand brought everything back. The smell of sage after rain, the sound of her laugh. The way she'd looked at him that last day when she'd made her choice. His fingers shook as he unfolded the letter. Mourning Dove glanced at him, concerned, but said nothing. She'd been with him long enough to know when to give him silence. The letter was dated 3 weeks ago. "Iron Sky, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I don't have much time to write, so I'll be direct. The sickness that took my husband last winter has me now. The doctor says I have days, maybe a week. I've made my peace with it. But I need you to know about Naomi." Iron Sky's eyes jerked to the sleeping child. Naomi. The name felt like a stone dropping into still water. "She's 9 years old. She's smart, stronger than she looks, and she has your eyes." "Yes, Iron Sky, she's yours. I never told you because I made my choice when I married Richard Harlow. I chose the life my family expected, the safety of a white settlement, the church and the farm and everything that came with it. But I never forgot you. And I never stopped loving you." The words blurred. Iron Sky's chest felt tight, compressed, like someone had wrapped rawhide around his ribs and pulled it taut. He looked at the child again, really looked at her. The shape of her face, the set of her jaw, the way her hair fell. His daughter, Richard, was a good man. He raised Naomi as his own and never once treated her as anything less. But he's gone now, and I'm going too. And there are men coming. Richard owed money to a trader named Caleb Stone. Borrowed it to pay for medicine when I first got sick. Before we knew it was hopeless. Stone's contract said if Richard couldn't pay, Stone could claim the land, the house, everything. Including any children in the household. Iron Sky's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. I fought it. I went to the territorial judge, but Stone had papers, witnesses, all of it legal. The judge said the debt transfers to the estate, which means to Naomi. Stone's coming to collect. I've heard what he does with the children he takes, Iron Sky. I've heard the stories. I would rather die knowing I did everything I could to save her than live another day knowing I didn't. So I'm sending her to you. She doesn't know the truth yet. I told her you were an old friend, someone I trusted more than anyone. When she's ready, when you think the time is right, you can tell her. Or you can let her believe what she wants. But please, Iron Sky, please keep her safe. She's all I have. She's all that's left of us, Margaret. The letter slipped from Iron Sky's fingers and fell to the ground. He stood frozen, unable to move, unable to breathe. The world had narrowed to a single point. This child, his child, sleeping on his blankets. Iron Sky? Morning Dove's voice was gentle, questioning. He couldn't answer. His legs gave out and he dropped to his knees beside the girl. His hand hovering over her head but not quite touching. Afraid that if he did, she might disappear like smoke. Morning Dove picked up the letter and read it silently. When she finished, she set it down carefully and placed a hand on Iron Sky's shoulder. A daughter, she whispered. He nodded, still unable to speak. Tears, unbidden and unfamiliar, burned in his eyes. He'd cried once as a young man when his father died. He'd cried when Morning Dove lost their first child. But this was different. This was 15 years of not knowing, of missing something he hadn't even known existed. Naomi stirred, her eyes opening slowly. She blinked, disoriented, then focused on Iron Sky's face. For a moment she just stared at him, then recognition flickered. "You're him," she said softly. "You're Iron Sky." "I am," he managed, his voice rough. "Mama said you'd keep me safe. She said you were the bravest man she ever knew." The girl's eyes filled with tears. "Is she right? Can you keep me safe from the men who are coming?" Iron Sky swallowed hard. He reached out and took her small hand in his. "Yes," he said. "I swear it," she nodded, a single tear sliding down her cheek. Then her eyes closed again, exhaustion pulling her back under. Morning Dove moved closer, kneeling beside him. "What will you do?" she asked quietly. "I don't know yet," Iron Sky said. "But I won't let them take her. Stone is a powerful man. He has connections with the territorial government, with the army. I don't care." Morning Dove studied him. "This will bring trouble to the whole band." "You know that." "I know." She was quiet for a long moment, then nodded. "Then we prepare." Iron Sky looked at her, grateful beyond words. Morning Dove had never been able to have children after that first loss. The pain of it had created a distance between them that neither knew how to cross. But now, seeing the way she looked at Naomi, he saw something soften in her eyes. "She need clothes," Morning Dove said. "And those feet need proper care. I'll gather what we need." She stood and left the dwelling, moving with purpose. Iron Sky remained kneeling beside Naomi, watching her sleep. His daughter. The words felt foreign and familiar all at once. He picked up the Bible again, turning it over in his hands. Inside the front cover, written in a child's careful script, was a name, Naomi Margaret Harlow. And below it, in Margaret's handwriting, "Beloved daughter." Child of two worlds. Child of two worlds. Iron Sky closed his eyes. Margaret had known. Even at the end, she'd known exactly what this child was, what she would always be. Not fully white, not fully Apache, but something in between. Something that would never quite belong anywhere, unless he made a place for her. The flap of the dwelling opened, and Gray Fox, one of Iron Sky's warriors, stepped inside. He glanced at the sleeping child, then at Iron Sky. "There are riders," Gray Fox said quietly. "3 of them. White men. They're asking for a child." Iron Sky's blood went cold. "Already?" They say her name is Naomi Harlow. They say she's a runaway. They have papers from a man named Caleb Stone." Iron Sky stood slowly, his hand moving to the knife at his belt. "Tell them the child is under my protection." Gray Fox hesitated. "They have a territorial marshal with them. I don't care if they have the President of the United States." "Tell them what I said." Gray Fox nodded and left. Iron Sky looked down at Naomi, her face peaceful in sleep, unaware of the storm gathering outside. He thought of Margaret, dying alone in some settlement house, knowing these men would come. Knowing she had to make an impossible choice, she'd chosen him. After all these years, after all the silence, she'd trusted him with the most precious thing she had. He wouldn't fail her. Mourning Dove returned with bundles of cloth and a bowl of healing salve. She knelt beside Naomi and began tending to her feet, working with gentle efficiency. Iron Sky watched for a moment, then turned toward the entrance. "Where are you going?" Mourning Dove asked. "To meet them." Iron Sky. "They won't take her," he said, his voice hard as flint. "Not while I'm breathing." He stepped out into the morning sun. The camp was stirring now, people emerging from their dwellings to see what the commotion was about. Word traveled fast in an Apache camp. Already they would know about the white child, about the men who'd come looking for her. Iron Sky walked through the camp toward the eastern edge where visitors were typically met. The three riders sat their horses at a respectful distance, but their posture was tense, ready. Two of them wore the rough clothes of hired guns. The third wore a marshal's star. Iron Sky stopped 20 feet from them, his arms crossed over his chest. Behind him, warriors began to gather, silent and watchful. The marshal dismounted slowly, his hand nowhere near his weapon. He was older, 50 maybe, with gray in his beard and the careful movements of a man who'd learned when to fight and when to talk. "I'm Marshal David Webb," he said. "I'm looking for a girl named Naomi Harlow. We have reason to believe she came this way. Why are you looking for her?" Iron Sky asked, his voice level. Webb pulled a folded paper from his coat. "I have a legal writ from Caleb Stone. The girl's family owed him a substantial debt. Her stepfather died 6 months ago, her mother 3 weeks past. The debt transfers to the child. Stone has legal claim to her custody until the debt is paid. The girl is 9 years old. She cannot be held responsible for a debt. Territorial law says otherwise," Webb replied. "I don't make the laws, Iron Sky. I just enforce them. Now I'm asking peaceful. Is the girl here?" Iron Sky's eyes flicked to the two hired guns. They sat their horses with the easy confidence of men who killed for money and slept just fine afterward. One of them had a scar running from his eye to his jaw. The other wore 2 pistols, cross-drawn. "Who are they?" Iron Sky asked, nodding toward the gunmen. "Stone's men," Webb said. "He sent them to ensure the girl is returned safely." "Safely," Iron Sky repeated, the word tasting like ash. "You know what Stone does with children who cannot pay their debts." Webb's jaw tightened. "That's not my concern. It should be." "Look," Webb said, and for the first time, Iron Sky heard frustration in his voice. "I don't like this any more than you do. But I have a job to do. Stone has the law on his side. If you're hiding the girl, you're breaking territorial law. That makes you and your people subject to prosecution. Do you understand what that means?" "It means the army comes," Iron Sky said flatly. "It means a lot more than that. It means they could declare your band hostile. It means they could force relocation. Is one child worth that risk?" Iron Sky's hands clenched into fists. The marshal wasn't wrong. Protecting Naomi could bring disaster down on his entire people. The Apache had already lost so much land, so many lives, so much freedom. Was he willing to risk what remained for a child he'd only just learned existed? He thought of Margaret's letter. "Please keep her safe." "She's all I have. The girl is under my protection," Iron Sky said. "She stays. The scarred gunman spat tobacco juice into the dirt. That ain't how this works, Chief. We got papers. Legal papers. You hand her over, or we come take her. Iron Sky's warriors shifted behind him, hands moving to weapons. The tension in the air thickened, became almost solid. Webb held up both hands. Easy, everyone easy. He turned back to Iron Sky. I'm giving you 1 day. 1 day to think about this. To consider what you're risking. Tomorrow at noon, I'll come back. If you don't hand over the girl then, I'll have no choice but to return with federal troops. Do you understand? Iron Sky said nothing. Webb mounted his horse, his movements slow and deliberate. 1 day, Iron Sky. Don't make me do something we'll both regret. The 3 riders turned and rode away, their horses kicking up dust that hung in the still air like a threat. Iron Sky watched them go, his mind racing. 1 day. That gave him perhaps 18 hours to figure out what to do. Gray Fox moved up beside him. They'll come back with soldiers. I know. The council will want to meet. They'll want to discuss this. Let them meet, Iron Sky said. But my decision is made. Gray Fox studied him. This girl means that much to you? Iron Sky turned to face him. She's my daughter. Gray Fox's eyes widened. For a moment, he said nothing. Then slowly he nodded. Then we fight. I won't ask the band to fight my battle. You're not asking. We're offering. You've led us for 20 years, Iron Sky. You've bled for us, sacrificed for us. If you say this child needs protecting, then we protect her. Iron Sky felt something loosen in his chest, a tension he hadn't known he was carrying. Thank you, my brother. Gray Fox clasped his shoulder. Come, the council waits. They walked back through the camp together. People watched from doorways, their faces solemn. They knew what was coming. War, maybe. Or worse, the slow death of forced relocation to some barren reservation where the spirits couldn't follow. The council lodge stood at the center of camp, a large structure of poles and hide. Inside, 7 elders sat in a circle around a small fire. They looked up as Iron Sky entered, their faces grave. Broken Wing, the oldest, spoke first. We've heard about the child. We've heard about the men who came for her. Then you know why I've called this council. Iron Sky said, We know, another elder, Tallgrass, said. The question is what you intend to do. Iron Sky sat down in the circle. The child is my daughter. Her mother was Margaret Chandler, a woman I knew before the wars, before everything changed. She sent Naomi to me because men are coming for her. Bad men. I won't let them take her, even if it means war. Broken Wing asked. Even then, the elders exchanged glances. Finally, Tallgrass spoke. You ask much, Iron Sky. The band is tired. We've fought for so long, lost so much. Many would say we cannot afford another fight. I'm not asking the band to fight, Iron Sky said. This is my burden. But I won't turn the child away. If that means I must leave, take her somewhere else, then I will. You are war chief, Broken Wing said. If you leave, who leads us? Gray Fox is capable. Gray Fox is not you, Broken Wing replied. You've kept this band alive through impossible odds. Without you, we scatter like leaves. Iron Sky looked around the circle, seeing the weight of their decision on every face. Then tell me what you would do. Tell me how to choose between my daughter and my people. The lodge fell silent. The fire crackled, sending sparks spiraling upward through the smoke hole. Outside, someone was singing, a low, mournful sound. Finally, Broken Wing spoke. There is another way. What way? Iron Sky asked. We negotiate. We go to this stone, offer to pay the debt. How much does he claim is owed? I don't know, Iron Sky admitted. Find out. If it's reasonable, we pool our resources. The band has some silver, some trade goods. It may be enough. Iron Sky shook his head. Men like Stone don't want money. They want power, control. The debt is just an excuse. Perhaps, Broken Wing said. But we must try the peaceful path first. If it fails, then we decide what comes next. The other elders nodded. It was wisdom born of survival, the understanding that sometimes the only way forward was through compromise, through bending before you broke. I'll send someone to find out the amount, Iron Sky said. But I make no promises. If Stone won't negotiate, if he insists on taking her, then I will do what I must. Understood, Broken Wing said. Now go, be with your daughter. The rest will come when it comes. Iron Sky stood and left the lodge. The sun was higher now, warming the air. He walked back to his dwelling, his mind turning over possibilities, strategies, ways to keep Naomi safe without bringing destruction down on his people. Inside, Mourning Dove had dressed Naomi in a simple doeskin dress. The girl's feet were bandaged, and she sat cross-legged on the blankets, looking small and lost. When Iron Sky entered, she looked up. They're coming for me, aren't they? She asked quietly. He sat down across from her. Yes, will you give me to them? No, but the marshal said. I don't care what the marshal said, Iron Sky interrupted. You're safe here. I promised your mother, and I don't break my promises. Naomi's eyes filled with tears. I don't want to cause trouble. Mama said you were an important man, that people depended on you. Maybe I should just go. Maybe it would be better. No, Iron Sky said firmly. It wouldn't be better. Not for you. But what about your people? What if the soldiers come? Iron Sky reached out and took her hands in his. They were so small, so fragile. Listen to me, Naomi. I've lived 50 years. I've fought in more battles than I can count. I've seen friends die, seen my people driven from our lands, seen things that would break most men. But I've never walked away from someone who needed me. And I won't start now. She looked at him, searching his face. Why? Why do you care so much about me? You didn't even know I existed until today. Iron Sky hesitated. The truth sat on his tongue, heavy and burning. But Margaret's letter had said to wait, to tell her when the time was right. And this wasn't the right time. Not yet. Your mother was my friend, he said instead. A long time ago, before you were born. She saved my life once. I owe her a debt. This is how I repay it. It wasn't the whole truth. But it wasn't a lie either. Naomi nodded slowly. She talked about you sometimes. When she thought I wasn't listening, she'd get this look in her eyes, sad and happy at the same time. I never understood it. Iron Sky's chest ached. She was a good woman. She was the best, Naomi whispered. I miss her so much. I know. They sat in silence for a while, the weight of loss hanging between them. Finally, Naomi spoke again. What happens now? Now, Iron Sky said, we wait. And we prepare. Whatever comes, we'll face it together. Naomi wiped her eyes and nodded. Together. The sun climbed higher, turning the desert floor into a shimmering mirror of heat. Iron Sky stood at the edge of camp, watching dust devils spiral across the horizon. Behind him, the band moved with purposeful urgency, preparing for whatever came next. Children were ushered into dwellings, weapons were checked and rechecked, and the elders spoke in hushed tones about old escape routes through the canyons. Gray Fox approached, leading 2 horses. The scouts report more riders coming from the east. Not soldiers yet, but Stone's men. At least 6 of them. How far? Iron Sky asked. 2 hours, maybe less. They're not hiding their approach. Iron Sky nodded grimly. Stone was making a show of force, demonstrating that he had the numbers and the will to take what he believed was his. Gather the warriors. I want 20 men ready to ride within the hour. Where are we going? Gray Fox asked, to meet Stone himself. If we're going to negotiate, it won't be with hired guns and a reluctant marshal. It'll be with the man who holds the contract. Gray Fox's eyes narrowed. That's dangerous. Stone's ranch is 2 days' ride, and he'll have 50 men or more. I'm not going to his ranch, Iron Sky said. Send word that I want to meet him at Copper Springs. Neutral ground. Tell him I'm prepared to discuss terms for the debt, and if he refuses, he won't. Men like Stone can't resist the chance to gloat, to show their power. He'll come, Gray Fox hesitated. What if this is a trap? What if he's just drawing you out to kill you? Then you'll be war chief, Iron Sky said flatly. But I don't think he wants me dead. Not yet. He wants the girl, and he knows I'm the only thing standing between him and her. He'll want to see if I can be bought or threatened into compliance. Gray Fox studied him for a long moment, then nodded. I'll send the message. But I'm coming with you. I need you here, protecting Naomi. Morning Dove can protect her. The girl needs warriors around her, and we have plenty. What you need is someone watching your back when you walk into Stone's presence. Iron Sky wanted to argue, but he knew Gray Fox was right. Fine, pick 8 more men. Fast riders, good with both gun and blade. We leave at midday. Gray Fox clasped his shoulder and walked away, already calling out names. Iron Sky turned back toward his dwelling, his mind churning through possibilities and contingencies. Every scenario he imagined ended in blood. Inside, Naomi sat with Morning Dove, learning to beat a leather bracelet. The girl's fingers worked slowly, uncertain, but Morning Dove guided her with patient hands. They both looked up when Iron Sky entered. I have to leave for a while, Iron Sky said. Naomi's face went pale. You're not giving me to them, are you? No, I'm going to meet with Caleb Stone to see if we can settle this without violence. But what if he won't listen? What if he tries to hurt you? Iron Sky knelt down in front of her. I've survived worse men than Caleb Stone, but I need you to promise me something while I'm gone. What? Naomi asked. Stay with Morning Dove. Don't leave camp. Don't talk to any white men who might come asking questions. And if something happens, if there's trouble, you do exactly what Morning Dove tells you. Can you promise me that? Naomi nodded slowly. I promise, good girl, Iron Sky said. He stood and looked at Morning Dove. If Stone's men come before I return, I know what to do, Morning Dove interrupted. We've prepared the canyon route. The children and elders can be moved in minutes. Naomi will be hidden where no one can find her, Iron Sky nodded. He wanted to say more, wanted to tell Naomi the truth about who she was to him, but the words stuck in his throat. Instead, he placed his hand on her head, a brief gesture of affection, then turned and left. The warriors assembled quickly, 9 men including Gray Fox, all mounted on the fastest horses in camp. They carried rifles, bows, and knives, enough firepower to fight their way out of trouble, but not so much that they looked like a war party. Iron Sky wanted Stone to see strength, not aggression. They rode hard through the afternoon heat, following game trails that wound between red rock formations and stands of juniper. The land here was harsh and unforgiving, the kind of country that killed the unprepared. But Iron Sky knew every canyon, every water source, every place where a man could hide or make a stand. Copper Springs lay in a shallow valley, a rare spot of green in the desert where water bubbled up from underground and fed a grove of cottonwood trees. It had been neutral ground for as long as anyone could remember, a place where different tribes met to trade, to talk, to resolve disputes without bloodshed. If Stone agreed to meet here, he would have to respect that tradition. They arrived as the sun began its descent toward the western mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Iron Sky dismounted and walked to the edge of the spring, looking into the clear water. He could see his reflection, older than he felt inside, lines carved deep around his eyes and mouth. A warrior's face. A leader's burden. They're coming, Gray Fox called out. Iron Sky turned. In the distance, a column of riders approached, at least 20 men. They moved slowly, deliberately, making sure they were seen. At the front rode a man on a massive black horse, his figure unmistakable, even from a distance. Caleb Stone. Iron Sky had never met him, but he'd heard the stories. Stone had come west after the war, a carpetbagger with money and ambition.
Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you.
He'd bought failing ranches for pennies, lent money at crushing interest rates, and slowly built an empire on the backs of desperate people. He owned half the territorial legislature and had judges in his pocket. Crossing him was dangerous. Beating him was nearly impossible. The rider stopped 50 yards away. Stone dismounted and walked forward alone, his hands empty and visible. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with silver hair and a face that might have been handsome if not for the coldness in his eyes. He wore an expensive suit, completely impractical for the desert, but that was the point. Stone could afford to be impractical. Iron Sky walked forward to meet him, stopping when they were 10 feet apart. For a moment, neither man spoke, each taking the measure of the other. "You're Iron Sky," Stone said finally. His voice was smooth, cultured, with a hint of southern drawl. "I am. I'll admit, I'm surprised. When Marshal Webb told me an Apache war chief was protecting the Harlow girl, I thought it was a joke. But here you are. Here I am," Iron Sky replied. Stone smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "I assume you called this meeting to negotiate, to discuss terms for the girl's release. I called this meeting to understand what you want. The girl's mother is dead. Her stepfather is dead. Whatever debt existed died with them. That's not how the law works," Stone said. "Richard Harlow signed a contract. It stipulated that if he defaulted, all assets would transfer to me. That includes the girl. A child is not an asset. In the eyes of the law, she is. Harlow borrowed $2,000. He paid back $300 before he died. The remaining $1,700, plus interest accumulated over 18 months, brings the total debt to $3,000. The girl remains my property until that sum is paid." Iron Sky's jaw tightened. $3,000. It might as well have been $3 million. The band had perhaps $200 in silver and trade goods combined. There was no way to raise that kind of money. "What do you want with her?" Iron Sky asked. "A 9-year-old child can't work off a debt that size." Stone's smile widened. "Oh, she won't be working for me. I have buyers lined up, families back east who are looking for domestic help. Orphans are quite valuable in that market. I'll recoup my losses and then some." The words hit Iron Sky like a physical blow. Buyers. Stone was going to sell Naomi like livestock. Ship her east to work as a servant in some wealthy household where she'd be worked to exhaustion and likely abused. Margaret had known this. That's why she'd sent her daughter away. "I'll pay the debt," Iron Sky said. Stone laughed. "You? With what? Beads and animal skins?" "I deal in real money, Iron Sky. Gold and silver coin, not primitive trinkets. Give me time. I can raise the money." "How much time?" "A year? 2? Meanwhile, what am I supposed to do?" "Just trust that a savage will honor his word." Iron Sky's hand moved to his knife, but Gray Fox stepped forward, placing a restraining hand on his arm. Stone noticed and his smile grew even wider. "See, this is the problem with your kind," Stone said. "No self-control. No understanding of how civilized society works. You think threats and violence solve everything, and you think money does," Iron Sky shot back. "But there are some things money can't buy. The girl is under my protection. She's not leaving." Stone's expression hardened. "Then you're making a mistake. I have the law on my side. I have the territorial government on my side. I have the United States Army on my side. What do you have?" A handful of warriors and a camp full of women and children hiding in the desert. I have the truth, Iron Sky said. And I have the will to fight for it. The truth? Stone laughed again. The truth is that your people are a dying breed. The truth is that in 10 years, maybe less, the Apache will be nothing but a footnote in history books. The truth is that you've already lost, you just don't know it yet. He turned and started walking back toward his men, then paused and looked over his shoulder. I'm giving you until tomorrow at sunset, Stone said. Bring me the girl, or I'll come take her. And when I do, I'll make sure everyone knows what happens to Indians who harbor fugitives. Your band will be relocated to San Carlos, that miserable reservation where disease and starvation are the only certainties. Is one child worth condemning your entire people to that fate? He didn't wait for an answer. He mounted his horse and rode away, his men following. The dust from their departure hung in the air like a curse. Gray Fox moved up beside Iron Sky. He's going to bring the army. I know. We can't fight the army. Not with 20 warriors and a camp full of families. I know that too, Iron Sky said quietly. He stared at the spot where Stone had stood, feeling the weight of an impossible choice pressing down on him. Save his daughter or save his people. There was no middle ground, no clever solution that would satisfy both. They rode back to camp in silence, arriving just as darkness fell. Fires had been lit throughout the camp, casting dancing shadows on the hide walls of the dwellings. People moved between them, their faces tight with worry. Word of the meeting had spread, and everyone knew what was coming. Iron Sky went straight to his dwelling. Inside, Naomi sat with Morning Dove, eating a simple meal of roasted rabbit and corn. She looked up when he entered, hope and fear warring in her eyes. What happened? She asked. Iron Sky sat down heavily. Stone won't negotiate. He wants you delivered by sunset tomorrow, or he's bringing soldiers. Naomi's face crumbled. Then I should go. I should turn myself in. It's not fair to make everyone suffer because of me. No, Iron Sky said firmly. But he'll hurt your people. He said so, didn't he? He'll make them move to a reservation. He said a lot of things. Iron Sky replied. Most of them were lies meant to scare us. But even if they weren't, the answer is still no. You're not going with him. Why? Naomi cried. Why does it matter so much? I'm nobody. I'm just a girl whose mother died and left her with nothing but trouble. Iron Sky reached out and pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. She resisted for a moment, then collapsed against him, sobbing. He held her while she cried, feeling the weight of her grief and fear. Morning Dove watched silently, her hand covering her mouth. When Naomi's tears finally subsided, Iron Sky pulled back slightly and looked into her eyes. You want to know why it matters? He asked quietly. Because your mother asked me to protect you. Because I made her a promise and I keep my promises. And because, he hesitated, then pushed forward. Because you're my daughter. The words hung in the air. Naomi stared at him, her face blank with shock. What? She whispered, your mother and I knew each other before you were born. Before she married Richard Harlow. We were young, and we cared for each other, but the world wouldn't allow it. She chose the life her family wanted for her, and I respected that choice. But you, Naomi, you came from that time. Richard Harlow was a good man who raised you as his own, but your blood is mine. Naomi pulled away from him, shaking her head. No, that's not true. My father was Richard Harlow. He raised me, he loved me, and I'm not trying to take that away from you, Iron Sky said gently. Richard was your father in every way that matters. But biologically, you're mine. Your mother's letter explained everything. The letter, Naomi said. The one in the Bible, Iron Sky nodded. She told me about you. About who you are. About why she sent you to me. Naomi looked at Morning Dove, as if hoping she would say this was all some cruel joke. But Morning Dove just nodded sadly, confirming the truth. "I don't understand," Naomi said. "Why didn't she tell me? Why did she let me think?" "Because she was trying to protect you," Iron Sky said. "Because in the world she lived in, having an Apache father would have made your life impossible. People would have treated you differently, cruelly. She gave you the chance to grow up as a normal white girl with a normal life. But now that she's gone, now that you're in danger, the truth matters again." Naomi wrapped her arms around herself, her whole body trembling. "I don't know what to think. I don't know what to feel. You don't have to know right now," Iron Sky said. "You just need to understand that I will not let Stone take you. Not because of some old debt to your mother, but because you're my blood. My daughter. And I protect what's mine." Tears streamed down Naomi's face again. But this time they seemed different, not just grief, but something more complicated. A mixture of confusion and relief and fear all tangled together. Morning Dove moved forward and put her arms around the girl. "Come, child. You've had enough shocks for one day. Sleep now. Tomorrow will bring its own challenges." Naomi nodded mutely and let Morning Dove lead her to the sleeping blankets. Iron Sky watched them go, feeling hollowed out and exhausted. He'd told her the truth, but the timing was terrible. She needed time to process, to understand, to accept. Instead, she had hours before Stone's deadline. Gray Fox appeared at the entrance. "The council wants to meet again. Now?" Iron Sky asked. "They say it can't wait." Iron Sky stood wearily and followed Gray Fox to the council lodge. Inside, the 7 elders sat in their circle, their faces grave. Broken Wing gestured for Iron Sky to sit. "We've heard about the meeting with Stone," Broken Wing said. "We've heard his demands. Then you know we have an impossible choice." Iron Sky replied. "Not impossible," Tallgrass said. "Difficult, but not impossible. We've been discussing it, and we believe there's a way forward." "What way?" Iron Sky asked. Broken Wing leaned forward. "We give them the girl." Iron Sky surged to his feet. "Never. Hear me out," Broken Wing said calmly. "We give them the girl, but not really. We stage it so that she escapes. Make it look like an accident, like she slipped away during the transfer. Then we hide her somewhere Stone and his men will never find her. A remote canyon perhaps, or with another band further north. And when Stone realizes we tricked him?" Iron Sky asked. "He'll be angry, but what can he do? He got what he demanded. If the girl escapes through her own cleverness, that's not our fault." Iron Sky shook his head. "Stone isn't stupid. He'll see through it immediately." "Perhaps," Broken Wing admitted. "But by then, the girl will be gone, truly gone, and he'll have no legal grounds to pursue us. The marshal will have witnessed the transfer. The army will have no cause to act." It was clever, Iron Sky had to admit. But it was also risky, and it required sending Naomi away, possibly forever. "There's another option." Another elder Red Cloud spoke up. "We could leave. Pack up the camp tonight, move north into the mountains. There are places the army can't follow, canyons where we could hold out for months. And what happens when winter comes?" Gray Fox asked. "When supplies run low. When children start dying from cold and hunger. We'd be trading one slow death for another." The lodge fell silent. Every option led to suffering, to loss, to impossible choices. Finally, Iron Sky spoke. "I need time to think. Until morning at least." "Don't make any decisions without me," Broken Wing nodded. "You have until dawn. Then we must choose." Iron Sky left the lodge and walked to the edge of camp. The desert stretched out before him, vast and empty under a sky full of stars. Somewhere out there, Stone was preparing his forces. Somewhere out there, soldiers were saddling horses. And somewhere in the dwelling behind him, his daughter was trying to understand a truth that had been hidden from her for 9 years. He thought of Margaret, of the choices she'd made, the sacrifices. She'd given up love for safety, passion for propriety. And in the end, it hadn't saved her or her daughter. All those years of hiding the truth, all that careful pretense, and here they were anyway. Standing on the edge of violence, Mourning Dove found him there an hour later. She stood beside him in silence for a while, then finally spoke. "What will you do?" She asked. "I don't know yet," Iron Sky admitted. "The elders make sense. Their plan could work. It could also fail spectacularly and get people killed." Mourning Dove nodded. "That's true of any plan. But doing nothing guarantees failure. Stone will come, with soldiers or without them. If we're still here, if Naomi is still here, he'll take her. The only question is how many people die trying to stop him." Iron Sky closed his eyes. "I thought I was done with this. With impossible choices and no-win scenarios. I thought I'd earn some peace." "We never earn peace," Mourning Dove said softly. "We only borrow it for a while. And when the debt comes due, we pay however we can." She took his hand and squeezed it gently, then walked back toward the dwelling. Iron Sky stood alone under the stars, wrestling with a choice that would define the rest of his life and determine the fate of everyone he loved. Dawn broke cold and sharp, painting the desert in shades of gold and shadow. Iron Sky hadn't slept. He'd spent the night walking the perimeter of camp, his mind turning over every possibility, every angle, every way this could end. By the time the sun cleared the eastern mountains, he'd made his decision. He found Gray Fox sharpening his knife outside his dwelling. The warrior looked up, reading Iron Sky's face immediately. "You have a plan," Gray Fox said. "It wasn't a question. I do. Gather Swifthawk, Running Bear, and Black Wind. Tell them to prepare for a long ride. We leave in an hour. Where are we going?" Gray Fox asked. "Fort Benson. To speak with Colonel Matthews." Gray Fox's eyes widened. "The fort commander?" "Iron Sky, that's insane. He'll arrest you the moment you set foot on his land." "No, he won't. Matthews and I have history. He's a hard man, but he's fair. If anyone can stand between Stone and the army, it's him." Gray Fox stood slowly. "You're gambling everything on one man's sense of honor." "I'm gambling on the truth," Iron Sky replied. "Stone's contract is legal in the eyes of territorial law, but it violates federal statutes against child servitude. If I can convince Matthews of that, he might refuse to provide military support for Stone's claim. And if you can't convince him?" Iron Sky's jaw tightened. "Then at least I'll know I tried everything before we run out of options." Gray Fox studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "I'll gather the men. But Iron Sky, if this goes wrong, if Matthews arrests you, the band loses its war chief. Are you prepared for that?" "I'm prepared for whatever comes," Iron Sky said quietly. He returned to his dwelling where Mourning Dove was braiding Naomi's hair. The girl sat stiffly, her eyes red from crying but her face set with determination. She'd spent the night processing the revelation about her parentage. And Iron Sky could see she'd come to some kind of internal resolution. "I want to come with you," Naomi said as soon as she saw him. "No, you're going to try to fix this, aren't you? You're going to talk to someone, make some kind of deal. I should be there. I'm the reason this is happening." Iron Sky knelt in front of her. "You're also the reason you need to stay hidden and safe. Stone has men everywhere. If they see you, if they know where you are, everything falls apart. But what if they don't believe you? What if they need to see me to understand? Then I'll describe you so well they'll feel like they've met you," Iron Sky said gently. "But you're staying here with Mourning Dove and the warriors." "That's final." Naomi's lips pressed into a thin line, but she nodded. "Will you come back?" "I will. Promise?" Iron Sky hesitated. He couldn't promise something beyond his control, couldn't guarantee he'd survive what was coming. But looking into his daughter's frightened eyes, he found himself saying the words anyway. "I promise." Naomi threw her arms around his neck, hugging him fiercely. Iron Sky held her close, breathing in the scent of sage smoke and child, committing it to memory. When she finally pulled away, he stood and turned to Morning Dove. "If I'm not back by tomorrow night, I know what to do," Morning Dove interrupted. "Take the northern route through the canyon. Get her to the Chiricahua Band across the border. They'll protect her." Iron Sky nodded. He touched Morning Dove's cheek briefly, a rare gesture of affection, then left the dwelling. Outside, Gray Fox waited with 3 other warriors, all mounted and ready. Iron Sky swung onto his horse, and they rode out, leaving the camp behind. Fort Benson sat in a valley 30 miles west, a sprawling complex of wooden buildings surrounded by a high stockade wall. The American flag snapped in the wind above the main gate, a constant reminder of whose authority ruled here. As Iron Sky and his men approached, soldiers on the wall raised their rifles. Tracking their movement, they stopped 50 yards from the gate. Iron Sky dismounted and walked forward alone, his hands visible and empty. A lieutenant appeared on the wall, young and nervous. "That's far enough," the lieutenant called out. "State your business." "I'm Iron Sky of the Mescalero Apache. I need to speak with Colonel Matthews." "It's urgent." The lieutenant's eyes widened. He'd obviously heard the name. "Colonel Matthews doesn't meet with hostiles. I'm not hostile. I'm here under a white flag, seeking parley. If Matthews values honor, he'll grant me an audience." The lieutenant hesitated, then disappeared from view. 10 minutes passed. Iron Sky stood motionless, aware of the rifles trained on him from every angle. Finally, the gates opened and Colonel Matthews himself emerged. Flanked by 2 sergeants, Matthews was in his late 50s. With iron gray hair and the bearing of a man who'd spent his entire adult life in uniform. He'd fought in the war, survived campaigns that broke lesser men, and earned a reputation for being strict but scrupulously fair. Iron Sky had faced him twice before in battle and once across a negotiating table. Each time, both men had walked away with grudging respect for the other. "Iron Sky," Matthews said, stopping 10 feet away. "I'll admit, I'm surprised to see you here. Last I heard, you were keeping your band far from federal installations. Circumstances change, Colonel." "I need your help." Matthews' eyebrow rose. "My help? That's a first. What kind of help could a war chief possibly need from me?" "The kind that prevents innocent blood from being spilled," Iron Sky replied. "May we speak privately?" Matthews studied him, weighing the request. Finally, he nodded. "Leave your weapons with your men. You can come inside, but you'll be under guard the entire time." "Understood." Iron Sky handed his rifle and knife to Gray Fox, then followed Matthews through the gate. The fort bustled with activity. Soldiers drilling in the yard, horses being led to stables, supply wagons being unloaded. They entered the command building and climbed stairs to Matthews' office. A sparse room with maps covering the walls and a desk piled with paperwork. Matthews sat behind the desk and gestured to a chair. Iron Sky sat, acutely aware of the 2 armed sergeants standing by the door. "Speak," Matthews said. Iron Sky told him everything. About Naomi, about Margaret's letter, about Stone's contract and his threats. He spoke plainly, holding nothing back, laying out the situation in all its complexity. When he finished, Matthews sat back in his chair, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. "Let me see if I understand correctly," Matthews said slowly. "You're harboring a white child who's legally bound to Caleb Stone through a debt contract. Stone has demanded her return, and you've refused. Now you're here asking me to intervene on your behalf. I'm asking you to uphold federal law," Iron Sky corrected. "Stone's contract violates the Anti-Peonage Act of 1867. That law prohibits holding individuals, especially children, in servitude to satisfy debts. What Stone is doing is illegal under federal statute." Matthews' eyes narrowed. "You know federal law?" "I've had reason to learn it over the years. Your government likes to hide behind legal justifications when it takes our land and breaks its treaties. I've made it my business to understand the rules you claim to follow. A ghost of a smile crossed Matthew's face. Fair enough. You're right about the Anti-Peonage Act. In theory, Stone's contract shouldn't be enforceable. But territorial law is a different matter. The territories have their own courts, their own interpretations, which is why I need your help, Iron Sky pressed. If you refuse to provide military support for Stone's claim, he has no enforcement mechanism. The territorial marshal won't move against an Apache camp without army backing, and if I refuse to help Stone, he'll go over my head to the territorial governor, who will pressure my superiors in Washington to replace me with someone more cooperative, Matthews finished. You're asking me to risk my career. I'm asking you to do what's right. Matthews stood and walked to the window, looking out over the fort. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he spoke without turning around. 20 years ago, I was a captain serving in the Indian Wars. We received orders to relocate a Cheyenne village. Women and children mostly, the men were off hunting. The chief refused to go. My colonel ordered us to use force. What followed was a massacre. We killed 37 people that day, most of them unarmed. I can still hear the screaming. He turned to face Iron Sky. I've spent the rest of my career trying to make up for that day. Trying to prove that soldiers can be more than instruments of slaughter. But the army doesn't give me much room to maneuver. Every decision I make is scrutinized, questioned, second-guessed. Then here's your chance to make a decision that matters, Iron Sky said. A decision that saves a child instead of harming one. Matthews returned to his desk and sat down heavily. If I help you, Stone will raise hell. He'll claim I'm showing favoritism to Indians over white settlers. The political fallout will be significant. And if you help him, a 9-year-old girl gets sold into servitude. Which can you live with? The question hung in the air. Matthews picked up a pen, tapping it against the desk in a rhythmic pattern. Finally, he set it down and looked directly at Iron Sky. I'll make you a deal. Bring me proof that the child is your daughter. Legitimate proof, something that establishes your legal relationship to her. If you can do that, I can argue that this is a custody dispute rather than a debt collection, which gives me grounds to keep the army out of it. Iron Sky's mind raced. What kind of proof? A birth certificate would be ideal, but I doubt that exists. Testimony from someone who was present at her birth, perhaps. Or a signed affidavit from the mother acknowledging paternity. Something concrete that I can put in a report to justify my decision. Margaret's letter acknowledges it. She wrote that Naomi is mine. A letter from a dead woman won't hold up in any court, Matthews said. I need something that predates Stone's claim. Something that establishes your parental rights before the debt contract was signed. Iron Sky felt frustration building. Margaret married another man. She never publicly acknowledged me as the father. She was protecting Naomi from the prejudice she would have faced. Then we have a problem, Matthews said flatly. Without proof, my hands are tied. Stone's legal position is stronger than yours. Regardless of the moral issues involved, Iron Sky stood abruptly, pacing the small office. Think, there had to be something, some thread he could pull. Margaret had been careful, secretive, but she'd also been deliberate. If she'd sent Naomi to him, she must have left some way to prove the connection. The Bible, there might be something, Iron Sky said suddenly. Margaret gave Naomi a Bible. Inside the front cover, she wrote something about Naomi being a child of two worlds. If we can show that Margaret deliberately connected the child to Apache heritage before her death, that's circumstantial at best, Matthews interrupted. Not enough. What about witnesses? Iron Sky pressed. People who knew Margaret and me before she married. People who could testify that we had a relationship. Do such people exist? Iron Sky thought hard.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us now. Back to the story.
It had been 15 years. Most of the people who'd known them then were dead or scattered. But there was one, a trapper named Joseph Redding, who'd traded with both the Apache and the settlers. He'd known about Iron Sky and Margaret, had even warned Margaret's father about the relationship. If Redding was still alive, if he could be found, there's a man named Joseph Redding, Iron Sky said. He was a trapper and trader in this territory 15 years ago. He knew about Margaret and me. He could testify. Matthews pulled out a map and studied it. Redding. I know that name. He runs a trading post up near the Gila River, about 60 miles north of here. He's alive? Iron Sky felt a surge of hope, last I heard. But getting his testimony will take time, and you don't have much of that. Stone's deadline is sunset today. Then I need to ride now. If I can reach Redding by this afternoon, get his statement, and return here by morning. That's a brutal pace, Matthews said. You'd be riding through the night. I've ridden harder for worse reasons. Matthews studied him for a long moment. All right. I'll give you until noon tomorrow. If you can bring me credible testimony from Redding or anyone else who can establish your paternity, I'll refuse to support Stone's claim. But Iron Sky, if you can't deliver, I won't have any choice. Stone will get his army escort, and your band will face the consequences of defying territorial law. Understood, Iron Sky said. Thank you, Colonel. Don't thank me yet, Matthews replied. You've got a long ride ahead, and Stone's men are probably watching every road. If they figure out what you're doing, they'll try to stop you. Iron Sky moved toward the door, then paused. Why are you helping me? Really? Matthews met his gaze. Because that little girl shouldn't pay for her parents' mistakes. And because maybe, just maybe, if I do the right thing here, it'll balance the scales a little for all the wrong things I've done. Iron Sky nodded and left the office. Outside, Gray Fox and the others waited anxiously. As soon as Iron Sky explained the situation, Gray Fox began calculating. 60 miles to the Gila, 60 miles back, that's a full day's hard riding. We'll need fresh horses at least once. There's a relay station at Copper Creek, Running Bear said. About halfway. If we can trade horses there, we don't have time for if. Iron Sky cut in. We take our fastest horses and we ride them until they can't run anymore. Then we run ourselves if we have to. Swift Hawk, the youngest of the group, looked nervous. What if Redding won't help? What if he doesn't remember or doesn't want to get involved? Then I'll convince him, Iron Sky said grimly. One way or another, we're not coming back empty-handed. They mounted up and turned north, pushing their horses into a hard gallop. The landscape blurred past, rocky terrain giving way to scrubland, giving way to rolling hills. They rode in formation, switching lead positions every hour to give each horse a brief respite from breaking wind. By midday, the horses were lathered and blowing hard. They stopped at a creek to let them drink and rest, but only for 10 minutes. Every moment they delayed was a moment Stone could be moving his pieces into position. We're being followed, Black Wind said quietly, looking back the way they'd come. Iron Sky followed his gaze. In the distance, barely visible through the heat shimmer, were two riders. They'd been there for the last hour, maintaining a steady distance. Stone scouts, Gray Fox said. They know we're up to something. Can we lose them? Iron Sky asked, not without killing the horses. They're pacing us, waiting to see where we're going. Iron Sky cursed under his breath. If Stone's men reached Redding first, they could threaten him, bribe him, or simply prevent Iron Sky from ever speaking to him. We split up. Gray Fox, you and Running Bear veer east. Make it look like you're heading toward the canyon country. Draw them off. Swift Hawk, Black Wind, and I will continue north to Redding's post. That leaves you with only 2 men, Gray Fox protested. If there's trouble, there won't be time for trouble. We get in, get Redding's statement, and get out. Meet us back at the fort by dawn. Gray Fox didn't look happy, but he nodded. At the next rise, he and Running Bear broke off, angling east and deliberately making themselves visible. The two distant riders hesitated, then split up as well, one following Gray Fox, the other continuing to shadow Iron Sky. "Still have one tail," Swift Hawk observed. "I know. We'll deal with it when we have to." They pushed harder, their horses' stamina beginning to fail. By late afternoon, they reached Copper Creek, a sad collection of 3 buildings around a dried-up stream. The relay station was run by a weathered old man who eyed them suspiciously. "Need horses," Iron Sky said. "Don't got any to spare." Iron Sky pulled out a silver medallion, one of the few valuable things he owned. "This for your 3 best horses." "We'll leave ours." The old man's eyes widened at the sight of the silver. "Those are Indian ponies. Half wild, they're worth more than any horses you've got. Take the deal, or we take the horses anyway." The old man grabbed the medallion and gestured toward a small corral. "Help yourself." They switched to fresh mounts, sturdy but slower animals bred for endurance rather than speed. As they rode out, Iron Sky glanced back and saw their shadow arrive at the relay station. The race was still on. The sun was setting when they finally spotted Redding's trading post, a sturdy log structure with a hide-covered lean-to and a corral full of mules. Smoke rose from the chimney, a sign someone was home. They rode in fast, dismounting in a cloud of dust. The door opened and a man emerged, rifle in hand. Joseph Redding had aged hard, his face like cracked leather, his hair white as snow. But his eyes were still sharp, and they narrowed when he recognized Iron Sky. "Well, hell," Redding said. "Never thought I'd see you again. What brings the great Iron Sky to my doorstep?" "I need your help," Iron Sky said. "And I need it now." Joseph Redding lowered his rifle slowly, his weathered face creasing into a skeptical frown. He looked past Iron Sky to Swift Hawk and Black Wind, then back again. "Help?" Redding said. "Last time we crossed paths, you threatened to lift my scalp if I ever set foot in Mescalero territory again. Now you're asking for help?" "That was a misunderstanding," Iron Sky said. "You called me a cheat and a liar in front of 30 warriors. You were selling watered-down whiskey and calling it medicine." "I stand by what I said." Redding's mouth twitched, almost smiling. "Fair enough. I cleaned up my business after that. Nothing but honest trade now." He gestured toward the door. "Come inside. Whatever this is about, we can at least talk like civilized men." They entered the trading post, a cluttered space filled with furs, tools, dried goods, and the smell of tobacco and leather. Redding poured coffee from a pot on the stove and handed cups to his visitors. Iron Sky took his, but didn't drink. "I need you to testify about something that happened 15 years ago," Iron Sky said. Redding sat down heavily in a chair that creaked under his weight. 15 years? My memory ain't what it used to be. You knew Margaret Chandler. Before she became Margaret Harlow, the name hung in the air. Redding's expression shifted, growing somber. "Yeah, I knew her. Pretty girl with more courage than sense, falling for an Apache war chief. Her father nearly shot me when I told him what was going on." "You told him?" Iron Sky hadn't known that detail. Thought I was doing the right thing. Figured he should know before things got too serious. Redding shook his head. "Instead, he locked her up for 3 months, then married her off to Harlow the week after she got out. I felt bad about that for years." Iron Sky set down his coffee cup. "She had a daughter." "Margaret did. 9 years old now. Harlow's kid?" "Mine." Redding's eyebrows shot up. He studied Iron Sky's face, looking for signs of deception, then slowly nodded. "Yeah, I can see it. Margaret came to my post once, about 6 months before she got married. She was already showing, though she tried to hide it. Asked me if I knew where you were. I told her you were up in the high country with your band. She cried." He paused. "She cried like her heart was breaking." Iron Sky's chest tightened. He'd never known Margaret had tried to find him. Never known she'd been carrying his child when her father forced her into marriage with Harlow. "Why are you telling me this now?" Redding asked. "Because Margaret died 3 weeks ago. Before she died, she sent her daughter to me for protection. A man named Caleb Stone claims the child as payment for a debt. He's trying to take her, sell her into servitude back east." Redding's face darkened. "Stone, that bastard's been bleeding this territory dry for years. I had dealings with him once. Once was enough. The army won't intervene unless I can prove the child is mine," Iron Sky continued. "I need someone who knew Margaret and me back then. Someone who can testify that we had a relationship, that there's a legitimate basis for my claim of paternity. You want me to go up against Caleb Stone in a territorial court?" Redding laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You're asking me to put a target on my back. I'm asking you to tell the truth. To help save a child from a life of slavery." Redding stood and walked to the window, looking out at the darkening sky. "I'm an old man, Iron Sky. I've survived this long by keeping my head down, staying out of other people's fights. What you're asking could destroy everything I've built here. What you've built," Iron Sky said quietly, "is a trading post in the middle of nowhere where you sell supplies to people who have no other options. Is that really worth more than a child's freedom?" Redding didn't answer immediately. Outside, one of the mules brayed, a long mournful sound. Finally, the old trapper turned around. "Margaret was a good woman. One of the best I ever knew. She deserved better than what life gave her." He sighed deeply. "All right. I'll testify. But we do this smart. I'll write out a sworn statement right now, sign it, you witness it. That way, if something happens to me before this gets to court, you'll still have the document." Relief flooded through Iron Sky. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Stone's got long arms and a mean streak. This might be the last favor I ever do for anyone." Redding pulled out paper and ink, settling at his desk. He wrote slowly, carefully, documenting what he knew, that he'd witnessed a relationship between Margaret Chandler and Iron Sky in 1860. That Margaret had come to him pregnant in early 1861, seeking information about Iron Sky's whereabouts. That her father had subsequently forced her into marriage with Richard Harlow. He signed it with a flourish and handed it to Iron Sky. "That's the best I can do. It ain't perfect, but it's honest." Iron Sky read it over, then carefully folded the paper and tucked it inside his shirt. This could be enough. Colonel Matthews said he needed credible testimony. "Matthews is a decent man for a soldier," Redding said. "If anyone at that fort will honor this, it's him." A sound outside made everyone freeze. Horses. Multiple horses. Swift Hawk moved to the window and peered out. "6 riders," he said quietly. "Coming in fast. Stone's men," Iron Sky said. Redding grabbed his rifle. "There's a back way out through the storage room. Goes into the canyon. You can lose them in the dark. What about you?" Iron Sky asked. "I'll tell them you were here, that you rode north toward the Gila Ford. Buy you some time. They'll know you're lying, probably. But I'm a good liar when I need to be." Redding grinned, suddenly looking 10 years younger. "Besides, I ain't completely helpless. Used to be pretty handy with a rifle back in my trapping days." The riders were close now, their voices carrying through the evening air. Iron Sky clasped Redding's shoulder briefly. "If this works, I owe you a debt. If this works, we're even for that watered whiskey," Redding replied. "Now get moving." Iron Sky, Swift Hawk, and Black Wind slipped through the storage room and out the back. They could hear the riders arriving at the front, boots hitting the ground, someone pounding on the door. They mounted their horses and rode quietly into the canyon, keeping to soft ground to muffle the sound. Behind them, they heard raised voices, then a gunshot. Iron Sky pulled his horse to a stop. "We can't go back," Swift Hawk said urgently. "If they caught us, the statement means nothing. If they kill him," Iron Sky started. Another shot rang out, then another. Then silence, Black Wind grabbed Iron Sky's reins. "He bought us time. Don't waste it." Iron Sky wanted to argue, wanted to ride back and face whatever was happening. But Black Wind was right. Redding had made his choice, had given them a chance to escape. Throwing that away would dishonor his sacrifice. They rode hard through the canyon, navigating by starlight. The path was treacherous, strewn with loose rocks and hidden drop-offs, but their horses were sure-footed, and they knew how to read the land. By midnight, they'd put 10 miles between themselves and the trading post. They stopped at a small spring to rest the horses and refill their water skins. Iron Sky pulled out Redding's statement and read it again by moonlight, making sure it was intact. "Do you think Matthews will accept it?" Swift Hawk asked. "He has to," Iron Sky replied. "It's all we have. What if it's not enough? What if Stone has already moved against the camp?" The thought had been gnawing at Iron Sky since they left the trading post. Stone's deadline was sunset today, hours ago. If Stone had kept his word, he'd have already sent men to collect Naomi. Morning Dove and the warriors would have fought back. And then, he forced the thoughts away. Worrying about what might have happened wouldn't change anything. All he could do was keep moving forward, get the statement to Matthews, and pray that it would be enough. They rode through the night, pushing their exhausted horses to the limit. Dawn found them approaching Fort Benson from the north, their animals barely able to walk. Iron Sky's eyes burned from lack of sleep, and every muscle in his body ached. But the statement was safe against his chest. Gray Fox and Running Bear were waiting outside the fort gates. They looked haggard but unharmed. "You made it," Gray Fox said, relief evident in his voice. "Did you get what you needed?" Iron Sky nodded. "Redding gave us a sworn statement. But there was trouble. Stone's men showed up just as we were leaving. Is Redding alive?" "I don't know. We heard shots." Gray Fox's jaw tightened. "Stone's not playing games anymore. We need to get that statement to Matthews now." They approached the gates together. The same nervous lieutenant from yesterday appeared on the wall. "Colonel Matthews is expecting you," the lieutenant called down. "You can come in, but your men stay outside." Iron Sky dismounted and entered the fort alone. He was taken immediately to Matthews' office, where the colonel sat reviewing reports. Matthews looked up, his face drawn with fatigue. "You're cutting it close," Matthews said. "Stone arrived here 2 hours ago with a territorial judge and a writ demanding army support. I've been stalling him, but I can't hold out much longer without a reason." Iron Sky pulled out Redding's statement and handed it to Matthews. The colonel read it slowly, his expression unreadable. When he finished, he set it down and leaned back in his chair. "This is good," Matthews said. "Not ironclad, but it establishes a credible basis for your claim. Combined with the mother's letter and the circumstances of the debt contract, I can build a case that this is a custody dispute rather than a simple debt collection. Will that be enough to keep the army out of it?" "It'll be enough to keep me out of it," Matthews said. "I can't speak for what Stone might try with the territorial authorities, but he won't get federal troops to enforce his claim. Not from me." Iron Sky felt the tension in his shoulders begin to ease. "Thank you, Colonel. Don't thank me yet. Stone's in the officers' mess right now, along with Judge Hendricks. They're going to want answers, and they're not going to like what I tell them." Matthews stood and straightened his uniform. "You should be there when I do. Face them directly. Show them you're not afraid. I'm not. I know. That's why you might actually win this." They walked together through the fort to the officers' mess, a long building where soldiers took their meals. Inside, Caleb Stone stood near a window, speaking with a short, round man in judicial robes. Stone turned as they entered, his face hardening when he saw Iron Sky. "You've got some nerve showing your face here," Stone said. "I was invited," Iron Sky replied calmly. Judge Hendricks stepped forward, his hand resting on the gavel at his belt. "Colonel Matthews, I trust you have an explanation for this delay. Mr. Stone has a legal writ demanding the return of his property. The law requires your cooperation. The law requires me to uphold federal statutes, Matthews corrected. And federal law prohibits the enforcement of debt servitude, particularly involving children. Territorial law supersedes federal law in matters of contract, Hendricks began. Not when those contracts violate federal civil rights protections, Matthews interrupted. He held up Redding's statement. I have testimony establishing that the child in question is Iron Sky's daughter, born of a relationship that predates the debt contract. This makes it a custody dispute, not a debt collection. As such, it falls outside military jurisdiction. Stone's face reddened. That's absurd. The girl's legal name is Harlow, not whatever savage name he wants to claim. Her stepfather signed the contract. That makes her part of the collateral. Her biological father didn't sign anything, Matthews said. And unless you can prove he surrendered parental rights, which you can't, your claim is on shaky legal ground. This is ridiculous, Stone sputtered. Hendricks, tell him he's wrong. The judge looked uncomfortable. He examined Redding's statement, his lips moving as he read. Finally he looked up. Colonel Matthews has a point. If the child can be proven to be Iron Sky's daughter, and if the biological father never relinquished custody, then the debt contract's claim over her becomes legally questionable. Questionable? Stone's voice rose. I have a signed contract. I have witnesses. I have. You have a contract with a dead man, Iron Sky said quietly. Richard Harlow had no legal right to pledge my daughter as collateral. You knew that when you wrote the contract, didn't you? You preyed on a dying man's desperation. Stone took a threatening step forward. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about. You're a predator who makes his money off other people's suffering. But this time, you picked the wrong target. Stone's hand moved toward his coat, but Matthews stepped between them. Enough, the colonel said firmly. Judge Hendricks, what's your ruling? Hendricks looked between Stone and Iron Sky, clearly weighing political considerations against legal ones. Finally he sighed, based on the evidence presented. I'm suspending enforcement of the writ pending a full hearing on the custody question. Mr. Stone, you'll need to file a separate claim establishing your legal authority over the child. Until that's resolved, the girl remains with her biological father. This is outrageous, Stone shouted. You're letting an Indian dictate terms to a white businessman. This will go all the way to the territorial governor. Then take it there, Hendricks said wearily. But for now, my ruling stands. Stone glared at Iron Sky with pure hatred. This isn't over. I will get that girl, one way or another. And when I do, I'll make sure everyone knows what happens to Indians who think they can stand against white law. Is that a threat? Matthews asked sharply. It's a promise, Stone said. He turned and stormed out of the mess hall, his boots echoing on the wooden floor. Judge Hendricks gathered his papers. Colonel, I hope you know what you're doing. Stone has powerful friends. This decision will create waves. Let it, Matthews said. I've weathered worse storms. After Hendricks left, Matthews turned to Iron Sky. You've bought yourself some time. How you use it is up to you. How much time? Iron Sky asked. A few weeks, maybe a month if you're lucky. Stone will appeal to the territorial court, try to get a ruling that overturns Hendricks' decision. If he succeeds, I won't be able to protect you anymore. Iron Sky nodded slowly. A month. It wasn't much, but it was something. What would you do in my place? Matthews considered the question. If it were me, I'd take the child somewhere Stone can't reach her. Mexico, maybe, or into Chiricahua territory where territorial law doesn't apply. Disappear until this blows over, and abandon my people? Your people can scatter and regroup. You've done it before. But if you stay, if you keep fighting Stone, eventually you'll lose. Men like him always win in the end because they control the system. Then maybe it's time to change the system, Iron Sky said. Matthews smiled sadly. You're an idealist. I respect that. But idealism doesn't stop bullets or overturn corrupt judges. Maybe not. But it's all I have. They walked outside together. Gray Fox and the others waited with the horses, their faces anxious. We won, Iron Sky told them. For now is good enough, Gray Fox said. Let's go home. They rode out of Fort Benson as the sun climbed higher, turning the desert into a furnace. Iron Sky's mind was already racing ahead, planning for what came next. Stone wouldn't give up. The territorial court might overturn Hendrick's ruling. There were a dozen ways this could still go wrong, but for now, Naomi was safe. For now, he'd kept his promise to Margaret. They reached the camp by mid-afternoon, riding in to find the band on high alert, warriors posted at every approach. Morning Dove emerged from Iron Sky's dwelling, Naomi close behind her. The girl's face lit up when she saw him. She ran forward, and Iron Sky dismounted in time to catch her as she threw herself into his arms. You came back, Naomi said, her voice muffled against his chest. I promised I would, Iron Sky replied. What happened? Are they coming? Not today. Maybe not for a while. He pulled back and looked into her eyes. But we need to talk about what happens next. Naomi nodded seriously, suddenly looking far older than 9. They walked together into the dwelling where Morning Dove waited with food and water. As Iron Sky ate and explained what had happened at Fort Benson, he watched Naomi's face cycle through emotions, relief, fear, determination. So we have a month, Naomi said when he finished. What do we do with it? We prepare, Iron Sky said. For every possibility, including leaving? Iron Sky looked at Morning Dove, who nodded slowly. Including that, Naomi's hands clenched into fists. I don't want to run. I don't want to hide. Mama spent her whole life hiding the truth about who I am, about who you are. I'm tired of hiding. Sometimes hiding is survival, Morning Dove said gently. And sometimes it's just slow death, Naomi countered. She looked at Iron Sky. You didn't hide when Stone came. You didn't run when the marshal threatened you. You fought. Why should I do any different? Iron Sky saw himself in her fierce expression, in her refusal to back down. His daughter, truly his daughter, in spirit as much as blood. Because you're 9 years old, he said. Because fighting isn't always the answer, then what is? He didn't have an answer. Not one that would satisfy her, anyway. So instead, he pulled her close and held her while the sun set outside and the camp settled into uneasy evening routines. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. Stone would regroup, would plan his next move. The territorial court would convene, and lawyers would argue over words and precedents while Naomi's fate hung in the balance. But tonight she was safe. Tonight she was home, and for Iron Sky, that was enough. 3 weeks passed like water through cupped hands. Iron Sky spent the days teaching Naomi the ways of her Apache heritage, things Margaret could never have shown her. How to read tracks in the dust, how to move silently through brush, how to find water where the land seemed bone dry. Naomi absorbed it all with fierce concentration, as if preparing for a test she knew was coming. Morning Dove worked alongside them, teaching the girl how to cure hides, weave baskets, and prepare traditional foods. She showed Naomi the plants that healed and the ones that killed, the prayers that honored the earth and sky. Slowly, hesitantly, the distance between Morning Dove and the child began to close, replaced by something that looked almost like the bond between mother and daughter. But beneath the surface of these peaceful days, tension coiled like a rattlesnake preparing to strike. Scouts reported Stone's men watching from distant ridges, noting who came and went, mapping the camp's defenses. Gray Fox doubled the guard rotations and established fallback positions in the canyons. Everyone knew this was borrowed time on the 23rd day, A rider came from Fort Benson. Not a soldier, but a civilian courier with a sealed letter, addressed to Iron Sky. The war chief opened it with Mourning Dove and Gray Fox watching. The Territorial Appeals Court had overturned Judge Hendrick's ruling. Stone's contract was deemed legally binding under territorial law. The court ordered the immediate transfer of Naomi Harlow to Caleb Stone's custody, with enforcement to be carried out by territorial marshals within 7 days. Iron Sky read the letter twice, then crumpled it in his fist. 7 days, then we leave tonight, Gray Fox said immediately. Take Naomi south into Mexico. Stone's authority ends at the border. And what about the band? Mourning Dove asked. If Iron Sky flees with the child, Stone will take his anger out on everyone left behind. She's right, Iron Sky said. Stone's been waiting for an excuse to move against us. If I run, he'll claim the entire band aided a fugitive. The army will come, not to enforce a debt contract, but to punish what they'll call criminal conspiracy. So what do we do? Gray Fox demanded. Stand here and let them take her? Iron Sky walked to the entrance of the dwelling and looked out at the camp. Children played near the cooking fires, their laughter carrying on the wind. Elders sat in the shade, sharing stories. Warriors tended weapons and horses. His people. His responsibility. We fight, he said quietly. Against territorial marshals? Mourning Dove's voice held disbelief. Against the law itself? The law is wrong, Iron Sky said. It allows a man to claim a child as property to settle a debt. It values money over human dignity. If we don't stand against that, what are we? Gray Fox moved beside him. If we fight marshals, we become outlaws. The army will have no choice but to hunt us down. I know, Iron Sky said. That's why I'm not asking the band to fight with me. I'll take Naomi and a small group, maybe 5 warriors. We'll make a stand somewhere that draws Stone's attention away from the camp. The rest of you scatter, disappear into the mountains until this passes. That's suicide, Mourning Dove said flatly. It's survival, Iron Sky corrected. For Naomi, for the band. I won't let Stone win, but I won't sacrifice everyone to save one child either. Naomi's voice came from behind them, small but steady. What if there's another way? They turned. The girl stood in the doorway of the back room, still wearing her sleeping clothes, but wide awake. She'd obviously been listening. What way? Iron Sky asked, what if I turn myself in? No, Iron Sky said immediately. Hear me out, Naomi pressed. She moved into the room, her young face set with determination. Stone wants me because I'm worth money to him. But what if I wasn't? What if I made myself worthless? I don't understand, Mourning Dove said. Naomi looked at Iron Sky. You told me about the law, about how Stone's contract only works because territorial courts recognize it. But there are other laws, aren't there? Federal laws that protect children? Iron Sky felt something shift in his mind, pieces of an impossible puzzle starting to align. The Anti-Peonage Act prohibits debt servitude. But the territorial court ruled it doesn't apply. Because they never heard from me, Naomi said. They never asked what I wanted, never let me speak. What if I went to Fort Benson, asked Colonel Matthews for asylum under federal protection? If I claimed I was being held in illegal servitude, wouldn't he have to investigate? Gray Fox shook his head. Matthews already tried to help. The territorial court overruled him. But what if I wasn't asking as Naomi Harlow, the girl whose stepfather signed a contract? Naomi's eyes locked on Iron Sky's. What if I was asking as your daughter? As an Apache child seeking protection from her father's people? The room fell silent. Iron Sky's mind raced through the implications. If Naomi formally claimed Apache identity, if she renounced her status as Margaret Harlow's white daughter, and instead embraced her heritage as Iron Sky's child, the entire legal framework changed. The territorial courts have no jurisdiction over Apache affairs, Iron Sky said slowly. That's handled by the Bureau of Indian Affairs, through federal authority. Exactly, Naomi said. Stone's contract is with Naomi Harlow, a white settler's daughter. But I'm not just her. I'm also your daughter. And if I choose to live as Apache, to be part of your band, then territorial debt law doesn't apply to me. Morning Dove looked between them. Would that actually work? It might, Iron Sky admitted. The legal precedent is unclear. The Bureau of Indian Affairs has fought with territorial courts for years over jurisdiction questions. If Naomi formally joined the band, if the elders accepted her through proper ceremony, Stone would have to take his case to federal court. That could take months, maybe years. And in the meantime, she'd be under your protection as a member of the tribe, Gray Fox finished. Stone couldn't touch her without violating federal treaty rights. Iron Sky knelt in front of Naomi. Do you understand what you're proposing? If you claim Apache identity, you'll face prejudice, hatred, violence. The white world will see you as savage, as less than human. You'll give up any chance of the life your mother wanted for you. Mama wanted me safe, Naomi said. She sent me to you because she knew you'd protect me. This is how I protect myself, and you and everyone here. Her voice cracked slightly. I've spent 9 years being Naomi Harlow, pretending to be something I'm only half of. Maybe it's time I learned to be the other half. Iron Sky saw Margaret in her daughter's face, that same fierce courage that had made him fall in love all those years ago. But he also saw himself, the stubborn refusal to surrender even when every rational path led to defeat. The ceremony would have to be real, Morning Dove said. The elders would need to accept her fully, not just as a legal maneuver. She'd be making a true commitment to the Apache way. I understand, Naomi said. You'd take an Apache name. Learn our language, our customs, our beliefs. It's not something you can undo when convenient. I know, Naomi replied. And I want it. All of it. Iron Sky stood and looked at Gray Fox. Call the council. Tell them we need to meet immediately. An hour later, the council lodge was full. The 7 elders sat in their circle, with Iron Sky, Naomi, Morning Dove, and Gray Fox standing before them. Broken Wing listened as Iron Sky explained Naomi's proposal, his ancient face unreadable. When Iron Sky finished, silence filled the lodge. Finally, Tallgrass spoke. This is unprecedented. We've never had someone request adoption into the band under these circumstances. We've never had circumstances like these, Iron Sky countered. But the principle is sound. If Naomi becomes Apache, Stone's claim becomes a federal matter rather than territorial. You're asking us to use our identity as a legal shield, another elder said. To treat our heritage as a tool. No, Naomi spoke up, her voice clear despite her nervousness. I'm asking to become part of something I should have been from birth. My mother hid the truth to protect me, but hiding didn't work. I don't want to hide anymore. Broken Wing leaned forward. Child, do you know what it means to be Apache? Do you understand the hardships, the persecution, the endless struggle? I've seen it, Naomi said. I've lived here for almost a month. I've seen how hard everyone works, how much they've lost, how they keep going anyway. That's stronger than anything I saw in the white settlements. Pretty words, Tallgrass said. But words are easy. Living the reality is different. Then test me, Naomi challenged. Give me trials, tasks, whatever you require. I'll prove I'm serious. The elders exchanged glances. Broken Wing nodded slowly. 3 days. You'll spend 3 days in the canyon with only what you can carry. No help, no food provided. If you survive, if you find your way back to camp, we'll consider your request. Iron Sky started to protest, but Morning Dove gripped his arm. Silencing him, I accept, Naomi said. You leave at dawn, Broken Wing said. Morning Dove will provide you with basic supplies. The rest is up to you, the council dismissed them. Outside the lodge, Iron Sky turned on Morning Dove. 3 days alone in the desert. She's 9 years old. She's also your daughter, Morning Dove replied. Which means she's tougher than she looks. And the elders are right to test her. If she's going to claim Apache identity, she needs to earn it. What if something happens? What if she gets hurt or lost or... Then we'll know this path wasn't meant to be, Morning Dove said gently. But I don't think that will happen. I've watched her these past weeks. She has your strength and Margaret's intelligence. She survive, Naomi stepped forward. I can do this. I know I can. Iron Sky wanted to forbid it, to find another solution that didn't involve sending his daughter into danger. But he saw the determination in her eyes and knew that stopping her would break something fundamental between them. All right, he said finally. But we prepare you properly. Tonight, I teach you everything I can about surviving in the canyon. They spent the night by the fire, Iron Sky sharing knowledge passed down through generations. How to find water by watching birds and insects. How to build shelter using rocks and brush. How to avoid scorpions and snakes. Which plants were edible and which were poison. Naomi listened intently, asking questions, committing everything to memory. Morning Dove provided supplies, a water skin, a knife, flint and steel for fire, a blanket. Basic tools, nothing that would make survival easy. As dawn broke, the entire band gathered to witness Naomi's departure. She stood at the edge of camp wearing a simple doeskin dress, her hair braided in the Apache style, her supplies packed in a small leather bag. Iron Sky knelt beside her one last time. Remember everything I taught you. Don't take unnecessary risks. If you need help, I won't need help, Naomi interrupted. I'm your daughter. I'll be fine. She hugged him tightly, then turned and walked into the canyon without looking back. Iron Sky watched until she disappeared around a bend in the rock, his chest tight with fear and pride. The next 3 days were the longest of Iron Sky's life. He maintained his normal routines, leading the warriors in training, consulting with the elders, managing camp business. But his mind was always in the canyon, following Naomi's possible paths, imagining dangers, fighting the urge to go after her. Morning Dove seemed calmer, though Iron Sky caught her staring toward the canyon when she thought no one was watching. She reminds me of the daughter we lost, Morning Dove said on the second night. The same spirit, the same fire. Iron Sky took her hand. I'm sorry. This must be painful for you. It is, Morning Dove admitted. But it's also healing. I thought I'd never know what it felt like to be a mother. And then Naomi arrived and suddenly, she smiled sadly. She's not replacing our daughter, but she's giving me a chance to love again. On the morning of the third day, scouts reported riders approaching from the east. Stone's men, at least a dozen, along with 3 territorial marshals. They stopped a mile from camp and sent a single rider forward with a message. The marshals demanded Naomi's immediate surrender. If she wasn't produced within the hour, they would enter the camp by force and search every dwelling. Iron Sky read the message and felt cold fury wash over him. Stone was moving faster than expected, probably worried that delay would give them time to hide Naomi more effectively. What do we do? Gray Fox asked. We stall, Iron Sky said. Tell them the girl is not in camp. Tell them she's on a vision quest in the sacred canyons and can't be disturbed. They won't believe it. They don't have to believe it. They just have to respect it long enough for Naomi to return. Gray Fox rode out to deliver the message. Iron Sky watched the distant riders, seeing their agitation even from this distance. The marshals conferred with Stone's men, clearly debating their next move. Then, from the canyon, a figure emerged. Naomi walked into camp covered in dust and scratches. Her clothes torn in places, her face sunburned. But she was smiling, carrying a rabbit she'd snared and edible plants she'd gathered. She looked exhausted but triumphant. The band erupted in cheers. Warriors shouted approval, women ululated, children ran to greet her. Naomi grinned wider, then saw the distant riders and her smile faded. "They're here," she said. "I know," Iron Sky replied. "But so are you." "And you survived." Broken Wing emerged from the council lodge and walked to where Naomi stood. He examined her closely, noting the rabbit, the plants, the evidence of her ordeal. "You found water?" he asked. "In a rock pool on the south face where the morning sun hits," Naomi replied. "You made fire?" "Last night, to cook the rabbit." "I used the flint you gave me." Broken Wing nodded slowly. "The council has discussed your request. We've decided that you have proven your commitment, your capability." He raised his voice so the entire band could hear. "Naomi Harlow, if you wish to join our band, to become Apache in truth and not just blood, we welcome you." Naomi's eyes filled with tears. "I wish it. More than anything, then you will need a new name. A true name given in ceremony. Morning Dove will prepare you." Morning Dove stepped forward and embraced Naomi. "Come, daughter. There is much to do." As they walked toward the lodge, Gray Fox approached Iron Sky. "The marshals won't wait much longer. We need a plan." Iron Sky watched Naomi disappear into the dwelling with Morning Dove. His daughter. His Apache daughter. The legal implications were suddenly clear. "Send a rider to Fort Benson," Iron Sky said. "Tell Colonel Matthews that an Apache child has been formally adopted into our band. Tell him Caleb Stone is threatening to violate federal treaty rights by attempting to seize her." "Will Matthews come?" Gray Fox asked. "He'll have to. Treaty violations fall under his jurisdiction. And if he doesn't, we'll make enough noise that someone higher up will notice." The rider left immediately, racing toward the fort. Meanwhile, the marshals had run out of patience. They mounted up and began riding toward the camp, Stone's men flanking them. Iron Sky called for the warriors to assemble. They formed a line at the camp's edge, armed but not aggressive. A show of strength without direct provocation. The marshals stopped 50 yards away. One of them, a weathered man with a marshal's star, rode forward alone. "I'm Marshal William Cross," he called out. "I have a legal writ demanding the surrender of Naomi Harlow. Refusing to comply is obstruction of justice. Naomi Harlow no longer exists," Iron Sky replied. "The girl you seek has been adopted into the Mescalero Apache band. She is now under federal treaty protection." Cross's face showed confusion. "You can't just adopt away a debt obligation. The debt was with a white settler's child. That child has renounced her former identity and joined our people. Your territorial court has no jurisdiction over Apache affairs. That's the biggest pile of legal nonsense I've ever heard." Stone's voice cut through the air. He rode forward, his face red with rage. "You can't hide behind some ceremony and pretend the law doesn't apply. The law applies," Iron Sky said calmly. "Federal law, not territorial. The Bureau of Indian Affairs has sole authority over matters involving tribal members. If you want the girl now, you'll need to go through federal courts." Stone looked ready to explode. "This is absurd." "Marshal, arrest him for obstruction." Cross hesitated. "Mr. Stone, if what he's saying is true about federal jurisdiction, it's a lie. A convenient story to avoid paying a legitimate debt. It's documented," Iron Sky said. He pulled out Redding's statement, now supplemented with the council's formal adoption decree. "The girl's Apache heritage is established. Her adoption is witnessed by the entire band. Unless you want to start a federal incident by violating treaty rights, I suggest you take this to the proper authorities." A commotion arose from the direction of the fort. Riders approached rapidly, led by Colonel Matthews himself with a squad of cavalry. They rode directly to where the confrontation was unfolding. Matthews surveyed the scene, then addressed Cross. "Marshal, what's happening here?" "I'm attempting to execute a legal writ, Colonel. But these Indians are refusing to cooperate." Because the writ is invalid, Iron Sky said. He handed Matthews the adoption decree. The child in question is now a member of my band, under federal treaty protection. Matthews read the document carefully. His expression remained neutral, but Iron Sky saw a flicker of something. Approval, perhaps, or respect in the colonel's eyes. This appears to be legitimate, Matthews said finally. Marshal Cross, I'm afraid your writ applies to a child who no longer legally exists in the territorial system. The girl is now subject to federal jurisdiction through the Bureau of Indian Affairs. This is outrageous, Stone sputtered. You're letting them make a mockery of the law. I'm enforcing federal treaty obligations, Matthews corrected sharply. Mr. Stone, if you wish to pursue this matter further, you'll need to file a claim with the Bureau of Indian Affairs in Santa Fe until they issue a ruling. The girl remains with Iron Sky's band. Stone's face had gone purple with rage. You'll regret this, Colonel. Both of you. I have friends in Washington who will hear about this. I welcome their scrutiny, Matthews said coldly. Now leave this area before I arrest you for disturbing the peace on federal treaty land. For a moment, Stone looked ready to do something violent. But Cross put a restraining hand on his arm and shook his head. Slowly, reluctantly, Stone wheeled his horse around and rode away, his men following. The marshals lingered a moment longer, then departed as well. When they were gone, Matthews turned to Iron Sky. That was clever. Legally dubious, but clever. Will it hold? Iron Sky asked for a while. The Bureau moves slowly. By the time they issue any ruling, circumstances may have changed. Stone may lose interest, find another target. Or he may fight this all the way to federal court. Hard to say. Thank you for coming, Matthews nodded. I told you before, I'm trying to balance the scales. This helps. He glanced toward the camp. I'd like to meet the girl. The one who caused all this trouble. Iron Sky led him to the dwelling where Naomi sat with Mourning Dove, now dressed in full Apache regalia. Her hair had been adorned with feathers, her face painted with traditional symbols. She looked up as they entered, her eyes widening at the sight of the cavalry colonel. You must be Naomi, Matthews said gently. That was my name, she replied. The elders will give me a new one tonight. And you're certain about this? About leaving your old life behind? Naomi looked at Iron Sky, then back at Matthews. My old life left me behind when my mother died. This is where I belong now. Matthews studied her for a long moment, then nodded. I hope you find what you're looking for, child. That night, the band gathered for the naming ceremony. Fires burned bright, drums echoed through the canyon, and voices rose in ancient songs. Naomi stood before the elders, her face solemn, as Broken Wing spoke the words that would bind her to the Apache people. You came to us as Naomi Harlow, daughter of two worlds, Broken Wing intoned. But you have proven your spirit, your courage, your commitment. Tonight, you are reborn as Mescalero Apache. He raised his arms to the sky. From this day forward, you will be known as Dagokshin, which means she who returns. For you returned to your father's people when you needed them most, and they returned your courage by accepting you. The band erupted in celebration. Warriors fired rifles into the air, women sang, children danced. Iron Sky felt tears streaming down his face as he watched his daughter. Truly his daughter now in every way that mattered. Being welcomed into the heart of his people. Mourning Dove stood beside him, her own cheeks wet. Margaret would be proud, she whispered. Yes, Iron Sky agreed. She would. Naomi, now Dagochin, broke free from the celebrating crowd and ran to them. She threw her arms around both Iron Sky and Mourning Dove, pulling them into a fierce embrace. Thank you, she said. Thank you for fighting for me. For believing in me. Iron Sky held his daughter close, feeling the weight of the past weeks, the fear and uncertainty and impossible choices, finally lifting. Stone would continue to be a threat, and the future held no guarantees. But tonight, surrounded by his people, with his daughter safe in his arms. Iron Sky allowed himself to believe that some battles could be won. Years later, when Dagochin was grown with children of her own, she would tell them the story of how she came to the Apache. She would speak of her mother's courage in sending her away, of her father's refusal to surrender, of Mourning Dove's patient teaching. She would explain how she'd learned to be both white and Apache, to honor both parts of her heritage without shame. And she would tell them about the note in her mother's Bible, the words that had changed everything. She's yours. She's all that's left of us. Please keep her safe. Iron Sky had kept that promise. And in doing so, he'd given his daughter something even more valuable than safety. He'd given her a place to belong, a people to call her own, and the freedom to choose who she wanted to be. The ranch house where Margaret had died eventually burned down, destroyed by time and weather. Stone's trading empire collapsed years later in a corruption scandal. The territorial courts that had ruled against them were reorganized under new federal oversight. All the structures that had threatened to tear Dagochin from her father crumbled away, but the Apache band remained. And so did the story of the girl who appeared at dawn carrying nothing but her mother's Bible, and the war chief who read the note inside and fell to his knees, and how together they defied an entire legal system to prove that some bonds were stronger than any law.
Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.